Hello watch friends, Louis from the Whole Cut here. The Casio Duro is an affordable watch icon, a true dive watch at a bargain basement price. But its large 44mm case size has put off many enthusiasts with smaller wrists, and as the years went by it started to feel like a smaller Duro would never come. So when Casio announced a number of smaller models with very similar styling to the classic Duro, it was hard not to get excited. But is it the smaller Duro enthusiasts have always wanted? Or is it something else entirely? This is the MDV-10D-1A2V. The first thing you'll notice is that the famous Marlin logo from the classic Duro is not present on this smaller model. But otherwise, the design is very similar. It is obviously heavily inspired by the Rolex Submariner, but with a few subtle differences. I opted for the blue and black bezel model on the bracelet, but it also comes with a blue and red bezel or a black bezel on a choice of bracelet, rubber or fabric straps. I think Casio missed a trick by not offering some different dial and bezel colours like a solid green or a nice red, but I'm sure many more variants will come in the future. So the case is made of stainless steel with a mixture of brushed and polished finishing. The tops of the lugs and the crown guards are brushed, and the sides are polished as is the bezel edge. The 60-click ratcheting coin edge bezel is aluminium, giving it a more vintage retro look. There's a little bit of play, but it's not bad at all, and there's a loomed pip at the 12 o'clock position. It is an attractive watch without doubt, but the bicoloured bezel doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than to look cool. There's an unsigned push-pull crown, and a solid snap-on case back etched with the specifications of the watch. The dial is a black sunburst with round loomed indices except at the 6, 9 and 12. There's a frame date window at the 3 o'clock, and the dial is emblazoned with the Casio branding and the water resistance rating. The handset is a bit of a mixed bag with a sword minute hand and an arrow hour hand, both with loom, and a blue arrow seconds hand. I think a red seconds hand would have worked better for this watch. Here's the loom shot for those who care. The crystal is a mineral crystal. The movement is a simple Japanese quartz movement. There's nothing more to say about that really. The bracelet is fully brushed. It looks the part, but like many an affordable Casio, it has folded links, hollow end links and a basic stamped clasp signed with the Casio branding. Though the push button clasp is a slight improvement over the simpler press down clasps Casio often uses in this price range. Let's quickly run through the specifications, which is probably the most controversial aspect of this watch. The Casio website states the case diameter is 38.5mm, but it's actually more like 36mm, with a thickness of 10.4mm and a lug-to-lug measurement of 42mm. The lug width is a rather unusual 16mm, with the bracelet tapering to 14mm at the clasp. You don't often see a lug width that narrow, except maybe on ladies' watches, but actually it does look proportionate on this watch. The water resistance is just 50 metres. The specifications seem to have upset a lot of people, and it's easy to see why. I purchased this watch from Creation Watches, which is a grey market seller based in Singapore. It cost me £53 including shipping, and it snuck through customs without incurring any charges. Now I've said that, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs will probably send goons to kick my door down, tip me upside down and empty my pockets, and until that happens I can say it remains the cheapest price I've seen so far, so I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. I should also point out that some of these models are now available on Amazon, so it might actually be worth waiting for an even better price. So what's the verdict? Well, it's a good looking watch, there's no denying it, but of course compromises have been made to keep the price down. The case and dial are well done, but the bracelet is pretty much as bad as they come, although I don't find it particularly uncomfortable actually on the wrist. I think it wears really well, but it does look small even on my slim 6-inch wrist. Let's not forget though that the first Rolex Submariner was only 37mm in diameter, so this watch isn't outrageously small. We are just used to bigger watches in the modern world. If you have a tiny wrist like me, or you just like smaller watches in general, you may well be pleased with the aesthetic of this watch. I went for the so-called Batman bezel because it was the one that looked most different from the other watches in my collection. But now I have it in hand, I'm starting to think I should have opted for the black bezel variant with the red second hand instead. I thought it was a bit boring, but there's a fine line between boring and classy. The most disappointing aspect has to be the water resistance rating. At just 50 meters, it isn't really a dive watch, it's a dive style watch. It talks the talk, but it doesn't walk the walk. I think with most affordable watches, there's always an element of style over substance. But what made the Duro great was that it had style and substance. If I can end this video on a positive, it is that this watch is ideal if you have tiny wrists like me, or you're a woman, or even a father looking for a first watch for his young son. Perhaps women and children are the target market if we are being fair. And of course, there's still a chance that Casio could break the internet by releasing a mid-sized version between 39 and 41mm with specs to match the original Duro. But until then, true dive watch enthusiasts will have to wait and be content with the original. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing if you want to see more unsponsored independent watch content. That's all I've got time for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.